I don't usually do this, but tonight I want to read you one of my favorite passages from Atlas Shrugged. I love it so much that I felt that I have to share it with you. So if you've read the book, fine, you don't have to listen, although you might actually enjoy it. If you haven't, please listen. And I mean, if you're a liberty-loving person, and if you haven't read Atlas Shrugged, and if that passage does not inspire you to pick up that book, well, I don't know what will. Anyway, enjoy. I'm going to start in the middle of the proceedings here, in the interests of time. Are we to understand, asked the judge, that you hold your interests above the interests of the public? I hold that such a question can never arise except in a society of cannibals. What do you mean? I hold that there is no clash of interest among men who do not demand the unearned and do not practice human sacrifices. Are we to understand that if the public deems it necessary to curtail your profits, you do not recognize its right to do so? Why, yes, I do. The public may curtail my profits any time it wishes by refusing to buy my product. Well, we were speaking of other methods. Any other method of curtailing profits is the method of looters, and I recognize it as such. Mr. Rearden, this is hardly the way to defend yourself. I said that I would not defend myself. But this is unheard of. Do you realize the gravity of the charge against you? I do not care to consider it. Do you realize the possible consequences of your stand? Fully. It is the opinion of this court that the facts presented by the prosecution seem to warrant no leniency. The penalty which this court has the power to impose on you is extremely severe. Go ahead. I beg your pardon? Impose it. The three judges looked at one another. Then their spokesperson turned back to Rearden. This is unprecedented, he said. It is completely irregular, said the second judge. The law requires you to submit a plea in your defense. The only alternative is to state for the record that you throw yourself upon the mercy of the court. I do not. But you have to. Do you mean that you would expect from me some sort of voluntary action? Yes. I volunteer nothing. But the law demands that the defendant's side be represented on the record. Do you mean that you need my help to make this procedure legal? Well, no. Well, yes. That is to complete the form. I will not help you. The third and youngest judge, who had acted as prosecutor, snapped impatiently. This is ridiculous and unfair. Do you want to let it look as if a man of your prominence had been railroaded without a... He cut himself off short. Somebody at the back of the courtroom emitted a long whistle. I want, said Rearden gravely, to let the nature of this procedure appear exactly for what it is. You need my help. If you need my help to disguise it, I will not help you. But we're giving you a chance to defend yourself, and it is you who are rejecting it. I will not help you to pretend that I have a chance. I will not help you to preserve an appearance of righteousness where rights are not recognized. I will not help you to preserve an appearance of rationality by entering a debate in which a gun is the final argument. I will not help you to pretend that you're administering justice. But the law compels you to volunteer a defense. There was laughter at the back of the room. This is the flaw in your theory, gentlemen, said Rearden gravely, and I will not help you out of it. If you choose to deal with men by means of compulsion, do so. But you will soon discover that you need the voluntary cooperation of your victims in many more ways than you can see at present. And your victims should discover that it is their own volition, which you cannot force, that makes you possible. I choose to be consistent, and I will obey you in the manner you demand. Whatever you wish me to do, I will do it at the point of a gun. If you sentence me to jail, you will have to send armed men to carry me there. I will not volunteer to move. If you fine me, you will have to seize my property to collect the fine. I will not volunteer to pay it. If you believe that you have the right to force me, use your guns openly. I will not help you to disguise the nature of your action. The eldest judge leaned forward across the table, and his voice became suavely derisive. You speak as if you were fighting for some sort of principle, Mr. Rearden, but what you're actually fighting for is only your property, isn't it? Yes, of course, I am fighting for my property. Do you know the kind of principle that represents? Well, you pose as a champion of freedom, but it's only the freedom to make money that you're after. Yes, of course. All I want is the freedom to make money. Do you know what that freedom implies? Surely, Mr. Rearden, you wouldn't want your attitude to be misunderstood. You wouldn't want to give support to the widespread impression that you're a man devoid of social conscience, who feels no concern for the welfare of his fellows and works for nothing but his own profit. I work for nothing but my own profit. I earn it. There was a gasp, not of indignation but of astonishment, in the crowd behind him, and silence from the judge as he faced. He went on calmly. No, I do not want my attitude to be misunderstood. I shall be glad to state it for the record. I am in full agreement with the facts of everything said about me in the newspapers, with the facts, but not with the evaluation. I work for nothing but my own profit, which I make by selling a product they need to men who are willing and able to buy it. I do not produce it for their benefit at the expense of mine, and they do not buy it for my benefit at the expense of theirs. I do not sacrifice my interests to them, nor do they sacrifice theirs to me. We deal as equals by mutual consent to mutual advantage, and I'm proud of every penny that I have earned in this manner. I am rich, and I am proud of every penny I own. I made my money by my own effort, in free exchange and through the voluntary consent of every man I dealt with, voluntary consent of those who employed me when I started, the voluntary consent of those who work for me now, the voluntary consent of those who buy my product. I shall answer all the questions you are afraid to ask me openly. Do I wish to pay my workers more than their services are worth to me? I do not. Do I wish to sell my products for less than my customers are willing to pay me? I do not. Do I wish to sell it at a loss or give it away? I do not. If this is evil, do whatever you please with me, according to whatever standards you hold. These are mine. I am earning my own living as every honest man must. I refuse to accept as guilt the fact of my own existence and the fact that I must work in order to support it. I refuse to accept as guilt the fact that I am able to do it better than most people, and the fact that my work is of greater value than the work of my neighbors, and that more men are willing to pay me. I refuse to apologize for my ability. I refuse to apologize for my success. I refuse to apologize for my money. If this is evil, make the most of it. If this is what the public finds harmful to its interests, let the public destroy me. This is my code, and I will accept no other. I could say to you that I have done more good for my fellow men than you can ever hope to accomplish, but I will not say it, because I do not seek the good of others as a sanction for my right to exist, nor do I recognize the good of others as a justification for their seizure of my property or their destruction of my life. I will not say that the good of others was the purpose of my work. My own good was my purpose, and I despise the man who surrenders his. I could say to you that you do not serve the public good, that nobody's good can be achieved at the price of human sacrifices. But when you violate the rights of one man, you have violated the right of all, and a public of rightless creatures is doomed to destruction. I could say to you that you will and can achieve nothing but universal devastation, as any looter must when he runs out of victims. I could say it, but I won't. It is not your particular policy that I challenge, but your moral premise. If it were true that men could achieve their good by means of turning some men into sacrificial animals, and I were asked to immolate myself for the sake of creatures who wanted to survive at the price of my blood, if I were asked to serve the interests of society apart from, above, and against my own, I would refuse. I would reject it as the most contemptible evil. I would fight it with every power I possess. I would fight the whole of mankind. If 1 minute were all I could last before I were murdered, I would fight in the full confidence of the justice of my battle and of a living being's right to exist. Let there be no misunderstanding about me. If it is now the belief of my fellow men who call themselves the public that their good requires victims, then I say, the public good be damned. I will have no part of it. The crowd burst into applause. Have a good evening.